According to a survey released on Monday, governance across Africa has improved very little over the past decade. It's attributed to deteriorating safety and the lax application of the rule of law. Leslie Mirungu has more.
Mauritius, Botswana and Cape Verde topped this year's Ibrahim Index of African governance. They are followed by the Seychelles, Namibia and South Africa. While overall the index has improved by just 1 point over the past decade, the scores of 3 of the top 10 countries have dropped since 2006. Major economies like South Africa and Ghana have registered some of the largest deteriorations.
We see an improvement. It's not a fantastic improvement, but it is an improvement. So, good news, but not fantastic news.
The index shows that nearly 70% of Africans are living in countries where there's been an improvement in governance.
And for the first time, the index is also looking at the perceptions of Africans themselves. So included this year is data from Afrobarometer, which is people's own perception of what is happening in their countries. So I think that the index makes a critical contribution to that accountability.
The survey has also found that almost half of Africa's 54 countries have recorded low scores in the safety and rule of law category.
Then of course we have the worrying trends, and I would pick out 2. One is this issue of safety and security, and the fact that it's the one element that has had such a major impact on the overall governance figures. And of course 2 elements to that, personal safety, but also national security.
The worst performers on the Ibrahim Index are South Sudan, Sudan, the Central African Republic, Libya and Somalia. Leslie Mirungu, CCTV.
Now, for more on that, I'm joined in studio by Dr. Casper, a senior policy advisor and director at the Africa Policy Institute. Dr. Njuguna, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
What are your thoughts on the latest Ibrahim Index of African governance?
I think the latest index has shown us some of the challenges that are going on as far as safety is concerned. On the other categories, which include human development, we see some slight increases. And I think they're really showing us the disparity between the high class, or the ones who are high earners, and low earners. And I think that's what's leading to the issue of safety.
But is it fair to say good governance indicators have been on the decline in Africa in the last decade?
I don't think it's completely fair. I think it depends on the reinterpretation. I think they're looking at participation maybe, and the selection process in terms of selecting the presidency. I think when you look at our economic increases, I think when you look at some of the progresses that we've done while facing terrorism and other new challenges, I think it's not as fair when you look at the context in sub-Saharan Africa that show that our governance is declining.
Yes. But which African countries then would you say stand out for you in terms of being on the right track when we talk about governance?
So we have, for example, Botswana, which has shown us how you can manage your resources, how you can create structures of transparency, which then lead to increases in the economy of your country. And so that's one example. We have examples even in Kenya, where we see some increases in freedoms of the people on expressing themselves, and the fact that the opposition has ability to grow. A recent case with the Kenyan president during the launch saying that he will let everybody participate, including the opposition. So I think those are 2 countries of just several countries, including Ghana, where we are seeing there is a change, there are improvements in our governance. Yes.
Although to counter that, some people would say that the more times change, the more they remain the same. I mean, we've had issues across the continent where presidents are not willing to have democracy in their countries.
And then the question then goes to, what are we defining democracy? We're looking at Rwanda. We're saying they're not leaving, the changeovers. Are they reinterpreting their understanding of democracy from an Africanist perspective? Or are we judging them from a more Western-based understanding of what democracy really means?
Aren't the standards the same though?
The standards are based on who? right? We're talking about standards here. And we have Rwanda, which is leading the world in the level of gender equity in selection. Yet, the parliament passes a law that pushes for a third-term president. So the question then is, what is the standard? Because the standard is improve women's entrance, which is happening across the continent. But at the same time, even in countries like those, where we'll expect change and turnover going fast, so are those countries saying, we love stability, we want change, and we want to change the selection process based on our context? Or are we then looking at those countries and telling those countries that we know better on how you should create your democracy? So I think that's the big question.
So then what are the factors, the major factors that help determine or define good governance?
Okay, so I think one of the measures of good governance, we have to look at why even have a government in society to start off with. And one of them is, of course, the issue of redistribution of resources. How well can a leader redistribute the resources they have at their disposal, and how fast can they grow their countries? Another one is security. How well can that nation state be able to protect its society and help it build on a fast track? So I think those are some quirks of good governance that should be looked at. Yes.
Let's leave it there. Dr.
Yes.
Casper Njuguna, thanks very much for those insights.